How do you evaluate debt service on a real estate investment? Let's dive in. Hey there, I'm Clayton Morris. I'm the founder of Morris Invest, one of the largest turnkey providers of rental properties in the country. And today I want to talk to you about debt service. It's a question we get a lot. How do you know if the terms I'm getting on this loan or on this rental property, does it all make sense? Does it work for me as a real estate investor? So today we're going to talk about evaluating debt service. And look, at the end of the day, debt service is broken down into a number of different areas. So let's dive into what those areas are. Number one, how much money are you borrowing? So how much money are you borrowing at the time from the individual you're borrowing it from? How long are you borrowing this money? Is it 30 years? Is it 15 years? So you need to know that, right? How much and how long, and what happens at the end of that term after the loan is paid off. Is it a balloon note, like we used to have, and we got into so much trouble in 2008 and 2009, where that suddenly now you owe the full amount of that note? Or is it totally paid off and you're scot-free and you own that rental property free and clear? Also, what interest rate are you paying on this particular loan? And is there a penalty for paying it back too quickly? Now that we know all of these different points that we're working with, we also need to figure out how much rent the property can bring in. How profitable will the property be? So it's great that we know the terms of our note over here and our mortgage, but what about the rent? How much profit can we make, and will one outweigh the other? That's the overall goal, of course. And there's an easy way to find the potential rent of your property that you're going to be purchasing. Now, let's say you work with a turnkey provider that's going to be providing you with a rental property. They're going to know specifically how much that property is going to rent for, because the chances are they've done, hundreds of properties on those same streets, so they know very well. Also, you could use a website like rentometer.com, rentometer.com. You just plug in the property address and it'll spit out a number for you. It's a range based on what other properties are renting for in the neighborhood. Now, like with any website, you may not get totally 100% accurate information, but it is definitely a good starting place for you to start running some formulas and numbers. Now, the key with Rentometer is it's going to give you a range. And what I would do when you're figuring out your overall debt assessment on a property is take the lowest number that they spit at you. Don't take the highest, take the most conservative number. The next big chunk of this puzzle that you want to consider is the expenses, the insurance, the taxes, and the property management fee that you're going to be paying. On all of our properties, I always take monthly rent times 12 months, and I then multiply that times 0.6. That takes out 40%. Now, I know that's a very conservative number. I probably go a little bit too crazy in how much I account for, but that just makes me extra happy at the end of the year when I look at my spreadsheets and realize that we didn't have to spend that much on expenses and taxes and all of those things. But anyway, account for about 40%. If you can take out about 40% from your annual rent, that's a good rule of thumb for you to consider when looking to see whether or not this property is going to be profitable for you. Okay, so you figured out your rent, multiplied it times 12, and then you take out those expenses, those taxes, insurance, property management fees, and potential repairs on the property and vacancies. You tie that all up into that 40% bow, and that's what you're left with. Now, we want to see, am I going to cash flow above what I'm going to be paying on that mortgage we talked about earlier in this episode? There are a couple of great websites you can visit to figure out how profitable your property is going to be once you know the terms of that loan. So, for instance, you could visit a website like bankrate.com. They'll take you through one of their loan calculators. You can also use an amortized loan calculator. For my wife and I, we use a simple calculator, an Excel spreadsheet that we've built. In fact, we're going to give it away for you for free if you want. The link will be below in the description of this video. You can click on it and download it and use that worksheet. It's free, it's a spreadsheet, and you simply plug in your numbers on that spreadsheet, and voila, you'll be able to figure out whether or not this property is profitable for you. Okay, so once you've figured out how much debt, the interest rate, all of those pieces we talked about at the beginning, and you figured out how profitable your property will be, minus your expenses, your insurance, your taxes, your vacancy rates, all of those things, it's like two different worlds here, right? Now we're going to combine them on that worksheet that we're giving away for free. Once you have those things given away, once you have those things all stuck together in that worksheet, what is the number? Are you going to be cash flowing $1 above the debt service you're paying back on this property. I've heard it said, Gary Keller and others, it said, as long as you're cash flowing $1 above everything you owe on this loan, after you account for all of your expenses, then you've got a home run. And then in a few years, when you have this paid off, then you get all of your cash flow, including that extra dollar. I don't stomach $1 as my cap. I would go as high as $100 or even $200. If I can cash flow every month from my tenants $200 above all of the debt service that I'm paying for it on a loan, that is an absolute winner of a property. I would take it and run. There you go. That's how to look at debt service and how to analyze debt service on your rental property. It's a good thing to consider when you're thinking about diving in and picking up your first rental property. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave some comments in the thread below. Please don't forget to download the free cheat sheet and worksheet, which is below. The link is right there in the description for this video. And don't forget to subscribe over here, the subscribe button. Go ahead and do that. We'll see you back here. We publish videos multiple times a week. And we're so glad to have you all here subscribing on this channel. We have such a great community of investors who are getting started and taking action. Go out there, take action, and become a real estate investor.